It's a beautiful morning, spring morning here in Northampton. We're in Bay State, and we're pruning some trees that are already starting to bud. Gabe, what kind of tree are you working on?
This is a Magnolia. Beautiful flowering tree. It's got flower buds forming on it. It won't be too long until these start to open up, and we'll have really quite amazing flowers.
Even these little trees have the big flowers?
Yep. Yeah, there's a number of different varieties of Magnolia, and some of them do pretty well here in New England, even with the cold. They're mostly known as a southern species, but they do well here. So today this is just a small tree, and it's got a pretty nice shape to it, but we are going to do just a minor touch-up pruning to eliminate some problems that are developing here.
Like what? What are the problems?
So the problems, we want to usually try to keep the tree with an open and spreading shape, and that just allows the sunlight to penetrate as much into the center of the tree. That gives as much vigor and energy to the flower buds and keeps a nice shape that's going to be aesthetically pleasing as well.
Are you going to cut off these suckers or whatever you call them here on the top? They're really kind of taking off on their own.
Suckers are something that most people who are going to be pruning, this is something that you can always see that it's really overly vigorous growth, vegetative growth, without a lot of buds on it. So you see these coming from the inside, they have no buds on them. They're not going to really form any good buds until they get to the outside of the tree where they get sunlight. So these shoots originating from inside of the trunk, low down, are usually a good target to think about removing. You don't need to remove all of them, and you want to balance your pruning in a season so that you're not taking off really ever more than 20 to 25% live growth at the max. A young tree like this, you can probably go up to 25%, but an old tree, you want to bring that down a little bit and not take more than maybe say 10 or 15% off at once, because you can shock the tree and you wind up getting a lot more suckers growing back. So here I'm going to make a couple cuts just to give you some examples of what that sort of pruning looks like. I'm going to take this one out. It's totally crowded in the center of the tree. So we'll take that out. That's going to allow a lot more light to penetrate in to these smaller, more fruitful budding limbs.
Now, how big will this tree get? Is it kind of crowded here under this big tree?
It's a little bit shaded. I'm not sure exactly what cultivar this is, but it's not going to get to be a huge tree. Probably no more than 25 feet, at the maximum.
So you can keep it any size you want, pretty much, just by pruning.
Keep pruning it. I mean, you got to work within its genetic profile. But yeah, pruning can help to keep it shaped, and that's something these small ornamental trees really benefit from. A detailed pruning, because the aesthetics and shape of the tree is a big part of their appeal. It can have a really nice sort of craggy bonsai type look to it, and they'll hold that pruning shape for a long time if you keep up with it. So we do a lot of this pruning in the dormant season now, because it's less impact on the tree, and then you can follow up during the summer to take off a lot of the new shoots that are coming. These old pruning cuts, you'll see, will put out new shoots from every cut, and so coming back in, say, the end of June, you can just break those off with your thumb or take a hand pruner, and if you'll want to sterilize your tools to protect the tree from getting any infection.
When do you sterilize it?
You spray them with some alcohol or bleach.
But before, during, after?
Before and during. Dip them in a
keep
bucket.
doing it. It's a continuous process.
As you're working, keep your tools clean.
So you don't spread any
so
fungus
here's a couple,
or something.
we'll make a couple more cuts. You can see here's some really vigorous long shoots. They don't have any growth on the lower part. They're reaching to the outside, crowding up the whole tree. So we're going to take that out. We're going to take this out too. And you'll notice here, as I'm making these cuts, I'm carefully placing the tool at an angle to the trunk, so that there's a little bit of a collar, a little bit of a bump here left, and that's going to give the tree the best shot at covering over these pruning wounds. If you cut into the bark of the trunk too much, that can be damaging. So you want to avoid that. Then we'll move out here. So those are some thinning cuts, and then we're also going to make a few heading cuts. So a thinning cut, you're moving it back to the lower part of the tree. Then a heading cut, we're going to actually cut the end of a branch off midway, like this. Like this is just a small example here. So I've selected a bud facing to the outside. I want to encourage this to grow out and away from the rest of the plant. So I'm going to cut it there at a little angle, just above the bud. and that's going to hopefully encourage that bud to push out that way. Here's another example. We can make a heading cut back to ideally a side branch, which is about a half to a third of the diameter of what you're cutting back to. So this one here is what I want to save. I want to get rid of this part here that's crowding the top and shading the lower part. I'm going to cut that back, a nice little angle just above it. That's a good cut. This hopefully will take over and push a branch out this way. So,
how long will it take for it to start branching out or budding, whatever it is, to start growing again?
It will start growing very soon. In just a few weeks, as soon as these start getting leaves, which within a month, these are going to start growing actively again.
Now, what about the old idea of like when you cut on a tree, you cut a branch, you put some tar on it and make it black?
That's not recommended. The trees have a very strong capacity to close off the pruning wounds naturally. Their sap and bark, they have a good defensive system to keep any pathogens or insects out of the tree. The only thing to be aware of is, like I said, sterilizing your tools, especially on a tree that is infected with bacteria or some other disease. It's an important thing to do. This magnolia, I'm not too concerned with it. But like a pear tree or an apple that has fire blight, that's an example of one that you're going to want to be real careful with sterilizing your tools. So yeah, I got a couple small, nice trees to prune this morning. I'm pretty happy. This magnolia, this is a pretty interesting one here called a Harry Lauder's walking stick.
Oh my God.
It's a type of hazel, and it gets
bizarre.
really twisted branches on it, so this will be fun.
Harry Lauder's walking stick. I think Harry Lauder was a golfer.
I don't know. And we've got a couple Japanese maples here, which will get just a little bit of thinning and shaping. These are all nice, small-sized ornamental trees, perfect for a small yard like this. We've got a rose of Sharon up there, and then I'm going to work on this birch tree, which is not a really large tree, but it's the biggest one that I'll tackle today, and it's touching the eaves of the house, and these service wires are getting compromised by this tree, so I'm going to thin out quite a bit of the lower growth on this, and that's really just to keep it fitting into the landscape. It's really not anything so much for the health of the tree as much as it is to just keep it in the space that we have to use.
And you're using all hand tools today?
Yep, all hand tools. That's all we need.
Well, we'll come back at the end of the day and see what you did.
Okay, thanks. See ya.